starting off with Backyard Bowl on Brawl Ball. Now, since this is the first map, you can basically assume that your opponents are just going to be playing completely random brawlers because they're probably just noobs. So you want to play brawlers that do well against pretty much everything. And on this map, since it's so open, you want to play really long-range brawlers because that will ensure that you can outrange whatever your opponents are playing, and that's going to give you a huge advantage, and it's going to make it a lot easier to take them down. So these brawlers are all great options for the map. They all have a ton of range and are just solid brawlers overall in the meta right now. And they should be able to handle pretty much whatever your opponents are going to play. Now, if you're going in with randoms or you're looking for a team and you don't really know who you're playing with, then there's a good chance your teammates can just suck. They're going to be really bad. It happens. So in that case, you can give yourself the best shot of winning by playing a brawler that can essentially carry and do most of the work for your team. So on this map, I would say either Belle, Piper, or Stu are good picks if you're going in with randoms. They all have pretty high damage potential, so you can easily deal a lot of damage to the enemy team just by yourself, and they're less support based than the other brawlers. You don't have to rely on your teammates doing anything good. For you to be good, all you have to do is just hit your shots or just play really well. And so that way you can make up for your randoms sucking. Moving on to stage 2, we've got Nuts and Bolts for Siege. So on this map, the good brawlers are going to be kind of completely different. We still got Stu because Stu's broken pretty much everywhere. You have brawlers like Barley, Sandy, and Griff who do pretty well at mid and just keeping control. With Griff, you want to make sure you break some of those walls open. You would ideally want to play him with someone else who can break walls open pretty well, like Stu, so that way his super can get the most value. But those brawlers do great at just having a lot of area control and really helping your team to get those bolts and just stay in the middle of the map the whole time, which is how you win in Siege. Jean is just going to be great for targeted picks on your opponent. You can pull them towards you into the range of the Ike and basically get a guaranteed kill a couple times a game, and that's just really good. You can also use that pull, of course, to yoink the bot away from your Ike turret and buy yourself a little bit of time. Now, Lou is going to be a pretty solid pick because he can basically guarantee you 100% defense. If you have your super, you can just throw it down on the lake, the bot will be frozen, stuck in place. I don't really know why this mechanic is even in game, but it is, and so Lou's going to be a good pick. Now, once again, you want to go with the brawlers who can do great on their own if you're playing with randoms. So for this map, I would say Stu, Jean, and Lou are the picks I would choose. Stu because he's just so good when you play aggressive with him. Jean because all the pulling and stuff is done completely by yourself. Sure, with the Magic Puff star power, you want to be healing your teammates and that sort of relies on them and stuff, but you can do pretty well with just the pulling yourself. And then Lou, you can basically solo defend the entire bot. Who cares what your teammates are doing? As long as you know what you're doing, you should have a pretty good advantage if you play him. Moving on to Dry Season in Bounty. There's a couple different routes you could take here. There are throwers that are pretty good on this map because of all the walls, or you could try to go for a more long-range comp and break open the walls, so that way you don't have to deal with throwers, or you could just go for some aggressive tanks and just keep pressuring your opponent, breaking the walls or not. If you're running like Primo or Buzz, you can just sort of jump on the opponents whenever. So those three playstyles pretty much explain most of the good brawlers on this map. Jean's just going to be pretty good in Bounty overall. I mean, he has the ability to yoink. It's basically the whole reason why he's good. You got a 7-star person on your opponent's team, who cares? You just yoink him and they're dead. Ruffs is also going to be a pretty solid brawler, mainly if you're playing with a team, because you can buff them up with the field promotion star power, and also you can just use your super and buff them up that way as well. Now, if you're playing with randoms and you want the best carry brawlers, I would say go with Primo, Jean, or Stu. Those are going to be the best standalone brawlers on this map in my opinion, but there's really not too much you can do about your randoms just feeding the whole game, so no promises for that one. For set 4, we are in Hot Zone with Ring of Fire, the one zone map that's got a lot of grass. You really want to have a good brawler in the middle lane for this map, and I think Belle is just going to be your best option overall. You could also go Lou in the middle, but I would prefer him in a lane with Belle staying in the middle. You know, she just outranges everyone. When you put down your bear traps on the center, your opponents are just screwed if they ever try to take control of the zone. So Belle, I think, is one of the best picks on this map. Like I said, Lou is also good even in lane. I think you can get your super, just throw it on top of the zone, and your opponents can't touch it, or else they're just gonna slip all over and you should be able to get a free kill. Now, my other suggestions for laning brawlers would be Amber, Rico, Leon, Stu, and Sandy. They all have their pros and cons. Sandy is a bit more shorter range, but you can still get a lot of value out of him because his super is just so powerful in the center. The other brawlers are mainly just very good for a lot of damage from very far away, with some other great abilities thrown in. If you're going in with randoms and you want to play the hardest carry brawlers, I would say go with Belle and just stay in mid the whole time because you'll be responsible for getting most of the damage. Or you could go with Rico or Stu on the lane and just try to go really hard aggro and make sure the opponents are dead the whole game. And then the final map is Minecart Madness on Gem Grab. Now, for this map, I would recommend these brawlers. A lot of them you typically see on Gem Grab. Sprout, I think, is especially good on this map because of the minecarts and all the walls that make it really easy to just completely close off entire sections with your wall. It's a super toxic strategy, but it works. And it's the last set, so you really got to do what works if you want to get the 15 wins here. Belle, Jean, and Piper are all going to do great in the mid lane here. It all sort of depends on what your opponents are running in the mid, but you can't really predict that. And Stu, Spike, and Crow are great brawlers on the side. They can just play really aggressive and put a lot of pressure on your opponents. That's really going to give you the opportunity to get those gems that spawn on your side. By this point in the challenge, I would assume even if you're going in with randoms, they're probably about at the same level as you if you've made it all the way to the end. So it's not as necessary to pick brawlers that can just do really well by themselves on this map, so you can basically pick whatever of these brawlers, and I think you're just as likely to win if you're going in with randoms. Now, one of the biggest things you need to know going into this challenge is that you should probably run the same brawler every single time, or at least only switch between like 2 brawlers, because the more you switch between brawlers, the more your game is thrown off, because you adjust in your brain all the aiming and the timing to adapt to a particular brawler as you're playing it, and so when you switch it, all that timing's thrown off, and you're not going to do as good in the next match right after you switch. So ideally, you just want to play the same thing the whole way through. And now the best brawlers for that, in my opinion, would just be Stu and Belle. They're good on basically every single map. Even if you're going in with randoms, they're very good on their own and can do a lot of the work for the team just by themselves. Jean and Piper are also decent picks to do this with. I think they're good on pretty much every single map. On a couple maps, they might struggle, but mainly they'll also be really good picks. But Stu and Belle, I think, are the top. And that's it. Go out there, get me some wins. Post down in the comments how many you get. I'll be interested to see. And good luck.